So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the NITheCS Colloquium. My name is Francesco Petruccione, and this afternoon I have the pleasure of introducing to you Dr. Lungile Sitole. Welcome, Lungile. Lungile is a senior lecturer in the Department of Biochemistry at University of Johannesburg, but she's also the director of the UJ Soweto Science Center, and that's what also the topic of today's talk. Yeah? Lungile studied organic chemistry in the United States, but did her PhD in biochemistry at the University of Pretoria. Among the many accolades, she was awarded a Woman in Science Award. She was in the Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South Africans in 2015. She's a member of the Golden Key International Honor Society and is an ambassador of the National Development Plan. Lungile, please, you're most than welcome to start with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof, for the really warm welcome. And I must say, I'm glad my presentation is at this time of the day because it's much cooler. So the only thing that will drop me over are my nerves and not the heat. So today I am going to be talking about the role of science centers in STEAM education. So I'm going to take this time to really go in and advertise our science center, which is the UJ Soweto Science Center. So before I sorry, Prof, I'm trying to move my slides. I'm not sure why they're not moving. Oh, there we go. So before I go into it on the Science Center, I want us to really talk about science centers and what they really are. So science centers, or as most call them, discovery centers, have always been thought of as alternatives to museums. However, me and many others out there beg to differ, simply because since the inception, museums have really just been collection of material and passive collection of objects collected for casual visitors to examine by sight alone. Now, science centers, on the other hand, are more interactive and hands-on places of learning. Now, admittedly, there's always a blurred line between what a science center is versus a museum. And really, this blurred line is based on the fact that both institutions cater to the same audience. They both really aim to fill the leisure time of similar audiences. Nonetheless, this presentation is really just based on science centers as interactive places of learning. So depending on, once again, how you define a science center, there are currently over 300,000 science centers in the world. And collectively, these are visited by millions of people on a yearly basis. Now, if we think back 25 to 30 years ago, only a very small percentage of these institutions existed. And this really clearly shows the global movement of science center expansion. Now, this global movement is not because science centers are pretty and they're attractive and they're fun, they're playgrounds, but it's simply because of the services that these centers are providing in their respective communities. Now, Pearson in 2000 wrote about science centers and the growth of science centers. And he also estimated at the time the global growth of the number of science centers. And this was in the United States, but his estimates were based on the world. And he estimated that in the 1990s, there would be 5% per year growth in the number of science centers and a 2% growth in the number of people that attend on a yearly basis. And we have seen the growth and they're continuously growing. And this really highlights the significance of science centers. Now, regardless of the growth of science centers, the growth of science centers, there still remains a huge need for the development of more science centers, specifically in the African continent. Now, because of Africa's rapidly increasing population, low school attendance rates, shortage of teachers, low literacy and techno-literacy rates, as well as the lack of institutional capacity at a tertiary level, because of all these factors, Africa has severe educational imbalances. Also, in African countries where science centers do exist, most of these are located in the cities. And should this situation not change, this will definitely worsen the inequalities of science education rather than improving them. Now, at the present level of development, science centers are really struggling to reach and heighten the level of scientific awareness, especially to the hundreds and millions of people spread across the continent, especially in rural areas. This therefore emphasizes the urgent need to establish more science centers, because naturally we hope that they form a network of informal and non-informal educational facilities, which will then support formal education. Now, in South Africa, which is really nice, because if you look at the entire continent, we're actually the only country that has a lot of science centers after Egypt, I believe. But in South Africa, we have approximately 35 science centers that are spread across the 9 provinces. And of these, Gauteng has the largest number. Now, these 35 science centers play a crucial role in contributing towards STEM, but not only STEM, but also STEAM, right? And this contribution is based on the provision of interactive and engaging learning experiences. Now, I want us to take a quick second and look at, or rather revisit, STEM versus STEAM, and why science centers, or rather why I say science centers, are at the forefront of STEAM education. So obviously we all know the STEM acronym is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, while the STEAM denotes the inclusion of the arts. Now, it's important to note that STEAM is not just a buzzword. So it's not just a tag-along acronym to the well-known STEM. So STEAM in actual sense harnesses the natural symbiosis between STEM disciplines, which then fosters creative problem solving, collaboration, and critical thinking skills, all of which are needed in the 21st century workforce. Now, in addition, STEAM may actually be one of the keys to solving humanity's biggest challenges into the future. So while STEM expressively focuses on scientific concepts based on the acronyms, STEAM, on the other hand, builds through the creative process. So STEAM builds on these concepts by using the creative process. So in actual fact, STEAM allows children from a young age to use both their creative and their logical brain sides to become innovators and problem solvers. Now, if we really take a second to think about it, science relies heavily on individuals with visual art skills, because these individuals are able to render detailed illustrations depicting everything from atoms to zebras to elephants, whatever it may be. Likewise, artists, they use their analytical, linear, and logical thinking capacity to compose their body of work. So for me, a really interesting example is Leonardo da Vinci. And this may be a bit cliche, but he still remains an interesting example. And simply because Leonardo was both a scientist and an artist, and really shows how STEAM education is so valuable. And he's more now commonly known as a polymath. So based on his scientific interest, he was really interested in science, was interested in all aspects of science, engineering, anatomy, botany, you name it. And his contributions to science were revolutionary and wide-reaching. Now, many, many years after he had died, his notebooks started being published, and one would see that these notebooks are filled with inventions that include parachutes, helicopters, and even calculators. And these were just illustrations. So this really shows you how art plays a role in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Now, if we look at his artistic pursuits, again, he believed that art, science, and nature were intimately linked and could not fully be appreciated except in synthesis. And one of the illustrations that shows this is the illustration that you see there on the screen. I mean, he has quite a number of them, but this one is one of my favorites. But this is an illustration of the fetus. And from this illustration, one can see that Leonardo had advanced understanding of human development even during the Renaissance period. So which really shows you the influence that art actually has on STEM. So I can go on and on about science and arts because that is my poison. But unfortunately, that's not what this presentation is about. So this presentation, the purpose of this presentation is to really show how science centers are supporting formal education and how science centers are contributing to science education. Now, in the next few slides, I'm going to highlight how we at the University of Johannesburg Science Center are supporting formal education and really doing our little bit to contribute to science and maths education. So the UJ Soweto Science Center is very small in comparison to the other really big centers in the country. I'm not going to name them because I'm advertising our center and not them, but we are relatively small. We are a drop in the ocean, but we try and do as much as we can with what we have. We're colorful, we're attractive, because if you are going to teach a child, you may need to entertain them first. So we really try and go deep with the entertainment for the children. So our primary focus area is therefore based on our capabilities, given our size. Now, in terms of why we were established, so numerous international and national reports have really confirmed the critical state of South Africa's education system, especially science and mathematics. It's all over, it goes without saying. Now, based on this, the Soweto Science Center was then established to contribute towards addressing these pressing learning problems. Now, essentially what we are is a flagship community engagement program or project, and we were developed through the University of Johannesburg's Faculty of Science. Now, we are located on one of the 4 campuses. So we are located on the Soweto campus of the University of Johannesburg. So we sit in the campus, and we're really in a prime spot because Soweto region has quite a number of high schools. I mean, it's a huge township, has a large number of high schools. So we are surrounded by a great number of high schools. So we in a really great place for the type of services that we provide. And our missions are really clear and straightforward. Our key mission is to provide academic support through our Saturday school program, to promote interest, learning, and creativity of science and mathematics through enjoyable experiences, to provide a stimulating learning environment, and also quite important is to provide a link between high school and university mathematics and science. So our primary project, which is also one that's really close to my heart, is our enrichment and extension Saturday school program. So this program runs every year from February to October. And what happens is we cater to grade 10s, 11s, and 12s. So they come in every year in January before the university calendar kicks in, and they register with us. And these kids are then with us from that time until October. And they're attending classes every Saturday, as well as every day during school holidays for the entire period. So it's a really intense program. It's really well structured. We have cycle takes, exams, and it's important also to note that we don't derail from the school curriculum. We're really a support system. So we help these learners understand what they fail to understand at school, or what there's just not enough time to get to understanding during the normal school period. So this is how we support them. So what I'm showing here are the statistics for our grade 12. So I've excluded the other 2 grades. As I mentioned, we cater for grade 10 to 12. And the Saturday school program also focuses on mathematics, physical sciences, and life sciences. So what I'm showing here is the number of grade 12s that we've registered in the program from the time we were established in 2011 until well, to date. And one can see, I mean, obviously when we started, the numbers were quite high, and the numbers began reducing, especially during the COVID period, because we all know what happened during that period. But also the other thing that happened for us is schools started then trying to catch up, right? They started trying to catch up and trying to get the matrics to get all the information they need to write the exams. So the matrics were now always in school on Saturdays, and they were not able to come for the support they need from us. So our numbers declined, but we've seen that slowly, you know, our numbers are gonna get back up, because again, there's still such a huge need for this type of program. So to date, the center has had over 1,000 grade 12 learners that have participated in this program. And I can gladly say we've had over 80% pass rates for matrics. Now, in addition to this program where they register with us in the beginning of the year, we also then host ad hoc grade 12 workshops that run on 1 day, 2 day, maximum of 3 days. So those workshops bring in much larger numbers of learners than the Saturday school program does. The center also has 3 fully equipped, beautiful, if I have to say so myself, 3 fully equipped labs, which are designed to really facilitate curriculum-based experiments. So through these labs, we offer interactive activities, which then allow learners to engage with scientific concepts in a tangible way. And these activities reinforce classroom instructions and help our learners grasp ideas by seeing and doing. And I must mention, most of our learners, although they are from Soweto, there are really advanced schools in the Soweto township, but we still have a large number of learners who are coming from schools that are really resource limited. They don't have anything, they don't have labs. These kids have to imagine what an experiment, such an experiment would look like. And they've never seen it, they just see it in a textbook, or, well, luckily now they can see it on YouTube. But the nice thing here is they get to do it themselves and experience it themselves. And it's really great. You see the spark in their eyes when they're doing this. And then we have a mobile lab, which was graciously donated to us by the Department of Science and Technology when we first launched the center in 2011. So the beauty of this lab is there's so many schools, there's so many children who need the services, and so many schools that cannot come to us. So we use this mobile facility to take science to the community. And also because, as I mentioned, we are quite small, we only have over 30 interactive exhibits. We don't have a big exhibition floor. So we take advantage of this mobile lab by then doing road shows and different science shows in the community using this mobile facility. So again, because of our size, we love for our learners to experience more than what we can give them at the center. So to do this, we then link up with other bigger science centers in the area. So we work very close with Saibono on this particular program. So we take our kids there, and when they're there, they're then able to explore science in a different environment. And we've seen that this really fosters excitement and curiosity. And they then also have really nice structured programs for us where our kids really go through all these interactive exhibits and they do all types of workshops. We also support STEM competitions. So this is quite a nice one for us as well. So we support STEM competitions and challenges, and these usually give our learners the opportunity to apply their knowledge and skills in a competitive and collaborative environment, and they enjoy it. So for this, we collaborate with UJ Techno Lab. So they do robotics and coding, that's their mandate. So they usually help us design a week-long girls robotics workshop. And during this workshop, the girls are in groups and they design beautiful robots and they get to compete. So here I also have to say, so the picture that you see where the girls are wearing orange t-shirts, so they had a competition during the workshop, the 1-week workshop, and this particular group of girls won the competition. They had a really nice robot that they designed, and then, well, they designed and built it, and then they were invited to the Oprah Winfrey Leadership School for Girls, I think that's what it's called, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership School for Girls, to showcase the robot, which is really exciting for these kids, because these are kids that never experienced anything like this. You know, they come from schools that don't have anything like this, and for them to get invited to a fancy school because they did something so cool is really, really exciting and inspiring. So we then also have, which is one of my favorite programs, is the Take a Child to Work program. So here we collaborate with the UJ very closely, specifically the chemistry department, which then helps us facilitate, which then helps us rope in other departments, and our learners then get exposed to what academics really do in these spaces. So what is it to be an academic? What does an academic do? So they get paired with different academics in their respective fields, and then they get to experience what that means. We often provide professional development opportunities for teachers, or rather educators, and this is done through our teacher training workshops. So pre-COVID, the center used to host these workshops on site. And it would be maths and science workshops, and then we'd do experiments as well. But then when COVID happened, we wanted to experiment and see how would this work online. How would it be received? And I mean, it was great. I mean, the reception was really brilliant. So we've carried on with these workshops, and through really strong collaborations, we've been able to help educators stay informed about the latest development in science and math education, and also improve their teaching methods. So occasionally we host special events. So we work very closely with the ESCOM Young Scientist Competition, and they host the Gauteng Regional Expo at the Science Center. And we've also then host Focus Week, which is specifically the National Science Week. So this really we do also to maximize our media coverage and also maximize our impact in our surrounding community. Now, of course, with all of these activities that we conduct, we have to measure how impactful we are. And this goes for all science centers in the world. I mean, measuring impact is really important. And, when we talk about measuring impact, we always get these two questions. And they're not the nicest questions to hear because they're often so difficult to answer. So we often get the question of, do people learn science in informal school settings? So do children really learn science in a science center? Do science centers really teach science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? Now, as annoying as they are, these questions are really critical. Especially for policymakers, funders, and researchers. They're really important questions because they also speak to whether we should continue to exist or not. And for me, the resounding answer is yes. Learning definitely does occur at science centers, but in most cases, it's very difficult to measure the impact of this learning. Now, for us, we are quite fortunate because our Saturday school program is embedded, within the center. So it's a bit easier for us to measure our impact over the 9-month period when the learners are registered with us. So we can measure whether we are contributing, whether we are helping them or not. We can, in some instances, also measure participation level, enjoyment level, and to a certain extent, we can measure knowledge and understanding. Unfortunately, it gets more difficult to measure deeper learning and overall impact. Very difficult. Nonetheless, based on multiple reports from science centers across the country, it really goes without saying that science centers in the country are really contributing significantly towards improving science education in the country, also towards improving science education in the continent, because there are a lot of other countries that are using most of our models as they also design their science centers and as they also try and contribute towards the formal education sector. Now, with that, I did say I will be short. So with that, I would like to acknowledge all of our partners who have been immensely supportive, particularly NITheCS. NITheCS has been extremely supportive in all our activities. All our online activities are hosted by NITheCS, free for us. So yeah, very appreciative of all of the efforts. And I would like to also acknowledge my colleagues who are also on the call listening. And with that, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Lungile, for the nice presentation. We still have plenty of time for talks. Are there questions from the audience in person and from the audience online? And I would like to invite them to raise maybe their hand so that we can give them the right to speak. Any questions in the audience here? Zura, I know we can always count on you.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. So, and of course, very important thing that you do, and that's absolutely amazing. Do you collect some kind of feedback from the school learners, especially if and when they get inspired by visiting science center, and then that impacts their life. Is there any way for them to come back to you, and maybe for you to keep record of those students who were inspired to do science or other things thanks to visiting science center?
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Zora, but it's a really, really interesting question. Yes, we do. We have quite a large number of students, especially those who register in the Saturday school program. So a lot of them, when they come in, it's because their parents said, you're struggling, you need to go. So most of the time what we've seen is they were never really interested in science, but because their parents are like, you have to do science subjects, you have to be a doctor or whatever, then they come in and they get the support. And then at the end, they enjoy it so much, some of them decide, okay, well, maybe I will study science. And an interesting example is one we had many years ago. So this was before my time. But we still brag about it. So we had a student who also a similar situation came in because the parents said he must do it. And he started from grade 10 and all the way to grade 12. And he did exceptionally well. So today he's an actuary at one of the big insurance companies. And he always credits the Soweto Science Center for helping him get the marks that he did for him to actually be an actuary.
Thank you. There is a question from Tekizo Seretlo online. Please, Tekizo, unmute yourself and ask your question.
I hope I've unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear
Okay.
you. We can hear you.
Yes. So I'm more interested in your interaction with schools, because sometimes when you come, the schools, they always develop the notion that you are overtaking them, you are taking their job. How do you interact with them that you are not taking their jobs, you're just trying to complement them? Do you talk to the schools or how do you do it?
Thank you, Mr. Seretlo. That question, that one is a nightmare. I've experienced it a lot where schools would not want the learners to come to us because of especially what you're saying. They feel like we are moving into their territory. So what we've done recently is we have now, so the Department of Education has the SIP program, so it's the secondary school program, and they have given it to Saibono to run. So the program basically caters to grade 12, across Gauteng where they support them. So what we've done is we have basically piggybacked onto the program, and piggybacking onto the program has made it then easier for schools to warm up to us when we come and tell them, okay, we're not trying to take over, especially the grade 12s, because the schools are they don't want with their grade 12. So we try and tell them we're not trying to take over. So what we can do is let us support the ones that you don't have programs for, and then we will give you your grade 12s back. So that has worked. The problem becomes when we want the grade 12s. Yeah, that is always a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Lungile, I don't see any more questions, neither from our online participants nor from our participants here in person. So thank
I
you.
either presented well or terribly. So
No, it went very well, and we are very envious that you have a science center, and we in Stellenbosch we don't have one. Yeah, so we would like your help to set one up here. Yeah.
So, Prof, there is a question that I'm seeing in the chat.
Yeah.
Read it out.
See that? Sorry. Let's check. Oh yes, please. You're welcome to answer. Sorry.
Yes, so I'll just read it out. So I'm sure there are also not well-financed schools, even in Soweto. Yes, definitely. Do you also teach students shoestring science? That's an interesting question, Prof. Piazza. I'm not sure what you exactly explicitly mean by shoestring science. But from my understanding, I guess it's science on a budget. Well, as a center, because we are community engagement and we ourselves do not have money, we are also on a shoestring. So most of what most of those kids that we teach, we I guess do accommodate shoestring science. If my my understanding of shoestring science is similar to what you're asking. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
DNA from strawberries. Yes. Yes. So that is true. Yeah. Oh, you meant teachers. Yes. So Prof. Piazza, yes, we do have so pre-COVID, we had teachers come in because we have the labs. So we had teachers come into the labs and we would teach them the experiments that they should be teaching the kids. So anything that's in the curriculum. So we would then give teachers workshops on all of those very easy, like I say, very easy things to do, you know, not expensive. So yes, definitely we did that. But unfortunately, since COVID, we haven't started up with that again. And also because of funding. So we haven't had any funders willing to assist with that. But we are really hoping, and I hope after this presentation, some of you will reach into your purses for next year and try and help us out, fund us a little bit, and then we can carry on with that, because we've seen that it really improves the outcome of education for both teachers and learners.
Lungile, thank you very much for picking up the question in the Q&A.
I have a last one
Please,
in
go
the
on.
webinar chat. Yes, I do have, well, I have permanent staff at UJ. So I am in the biochemistry department. And then at the Soweto Science Center, it's almost an ad hoc secondary position, so to say. So in terms of permanent staff, no, we don't. And this is simply because of funding issues. We have applied for funding. So as soon as we get enough money to pay more people, we will definitely be hiring more teachers because we need teachers that will help these kids. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lungile. Thank you. Then at this moment, I don't see any more questions or chats. So Lungile, thank you very much for your time. It was really very interesting. And we hope to see you in person very soon. Yeah?
Yes.
Thank you
Thank you, Prof.
very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much for the nice talk.